I'm Amara.
I'm Wilfred. Welcome back.
Thanks for joining us. So today we're talking about new home builds, and we have two different categories for this. So we're going to be talking about the custom and spec homes, mostly about the custom homes because those are a little bit more complicated from a buyer's end, but we will touch on the spec as well. So do you want to just kind of start by explaining the differences between the two?
Yeah. Custom homes are like you're playing Sims. Basically, you're choosing every most details of your home, and you get to choose. You get to custom a lot of things. And spec home are typically like basically it's like a pre-sale but for single detached or duplex. So those are the two main differences. So we're gonna go through the process of getting a new home. And last time we talked about the pre-sales. Now we're going to talk about the new homes.
Yeah.
And so why don't we get started with the step number one.
Alrighty, so step number one in this process is going to be reviewing the zoning. We're actually going to touch on this in a later video as well because it's so in-depth. But review your zoning, make sure that you're okay to build. Then you're also going to take a look at regulations for the first step here. You're going to take a look at artesian wells. Artesian wells are essentially water trapped beneath the ground, and some drillers who don't have experience have actually tapped into these and caused massive floods. So this happened over in, I believe it was Shaughnessy, and they had 2 million liters of water pouring out every day until they were able to get it fixed.
Crazy.
So use professionals when you're doing this. I would highly recommend that. Even though in some situations you are allowed to DIY the process completely, there's a lot of reasons to not do that, and we'll go through that as we talk through the video here. Also with that, you're going to look at underground storage tanks. So that's going to be from old styles of heating where they've actually buried the tanks in the ground. Make sure that you're doing a look through your property for that. It'll be a professional inspection that'll have to be done for that. And then energy requirements as well. So making sure that the land that you're building on is nearby enough energy sources that you're able to build a home you're happy with. So if having a hot tub is important to you, you're gonna need more energy for that. If you're building a large home, again, obviously more energy. And so just take that into consideration as you're building and make sure that you're being advised by the right people. This first step's quite long. So the last part of the first step here is the Japanese beetle requirements. So this one's quite new. I'm sure a lot of you have seen the signs for the Japanese beetles around Vancouver, but this also requires more inspections and more approvals here.
And the second step is to get the required pre-approvals. So the number one would be to engage a design professional. Essentially, it's designing a new home. It can be complicated, and having a professional, like Amara mentioned, is very crucial. So do your research, finding like a good designer, a good architect would go a long way. And then after that, you contact the city staff. The city staff are very helpful, and they're available to help throughout this process, especially when it comes to navigating the approval process. So they will be able to guide you and answer any questions you may have. Certain sites have different specifications and they're not typically normal, so they will be able to help over there. And then after that, apply for a sewer and a water line connection, because you need those connections if you want to live comfortably. And so first, or in that step, is you must provide a signed, sealed, and certified legal survey plan prepared by a BC land surveyor. And then after that, you will also need a Fortis gas servicing location diagram. So all this information, we're going to link this down below. So just in case, because there's a lot of information coming out here. And this is from the city of Vancouver. What is the third step, Namira?
Yeah, so the third step is going to be all about the permits. So once you have your plan built, you've talked to a designer, you're going to then go apply to have your permits approved and to be able to go forward with the process. So this one's relatively straightforward compared to what we've talked about so far. With this one, you're going to submit your permit application, then you're going to go and you're going to have the permit temporarily approved pending payment. You're going to pay for that. And then after it's approved, you're going to be good to go. So you're going to get started. Next one here is actually construction.
Once construction starts, you're going to need to apply for different work permits, and it will be applied by the general contractor. It will be different ones for plumbing, electrical, fire sprinkler, gas, and mechanical. Once that's done, request the inspection. All the work completed will need to be inspected at various different stages of the construction.
Yeah, and then following that, you are going to be taking a look at getting an occupancy permit. And so an occupancy permit is going to be a guarantee or kind of a look over ensuring that the relevant bylaws and codes are being followed. This is especially valuable if you're planning on reselling the home, because it'll give someone else a guarantee that you've had the proper approvals. In some situations, it will actually be required. But in some situations where you're building your own home and it's a single detached home, you may not be required to have it. So just something to bear in mind.
Mm-hmm.
And
the last step is to move in and decorate. Mm-hmm. But before we actually do that, I think we wanted to talk about what to look for in a builder. So a few things to keep in mind would be to make sure that they are licensed with BC Housing. And the second thing is that they have the third-party insurance, which is also known as the 2, 5, 10 year. And as we talked in our previous video, the 2 years covered the design, the materials, and the labor. 5 years the building envelope, including the water penetration, and then the 10 year on the building structure or the house structure. So checking those out is very, very important, and also checking whether the builder has after-sales program, how good those after-sales program are. Check out the Google reviews, check out on Reddit whether they're good, and also how long the builder has been working and constructing, as well as perhaps you can also check out some of their previous construction or their current construction. That would go a long way, as well as get references from current owners or previous owners. And also maybe check at the Better Business Bureau, BBB, whether they receive any complaints or whether they have done everything according to the Homeowner Protection Act. So yeah, those are the pro tips to check on your builder.
Yeah, and then a couple little things to touch on as well. With the 2510 that Wilfred was just chatting with you about, that one is something that you get when you use professional licensed individuals. If you decide to DIY the project, that's not going to apply to you, and you're still legally allowed to do it that way, but you just need to be aware that you are not going to be covered with the 2510, and if someone chooses to buy your property, you're legally held responsible to covering that for them. So if you sell your home 2 years after building, the 5 and 10 portion of this 2510 warranty is going to be your responsibility until those 10 years, my words, until those 10 years have been met. So just something to take note of. Again, we have tons of information that we've been passing on today, so use the resources that we have below. And then the last kind of things that we wanted to mention here is the kinds of land ownership, as well as lead buildings and, our...
Yeah, so the kinds of ownership that you can, there's basically two main ones, the freehold over leasehold. I'm sure you've probably heard about that. Freehold is the highest ownership level that you can own the land. And just to give you some quick info as well, about 89% of all the land in Canada is owned from the Crown. So we purchase that from the Crown, and about 11% is owned privately. So either private companies or the First Nations. Leasehold is when we basically lease the land from those private companies or the First Nations. Usually it's for long periods of time, 50 to 100, sometimes even more.
The reason people want to take note of that is because, although it may last 50 to 100 years, it expires. And so generally people see these really cheap properties come up, or these really cheap pieces of land, and not understand why.
Yeah.
If you look into it, you might find out that it's a leasehold, and that's why they're choosing to do that, is because maybe they only have 5 or 10 years left. So generally you won't see builds on the ones that are kind of expiring, but maybe on a newer one you might still see that.
Yeah, and like Ariana mentioned, those are very important to know, because when the land or the lease expires, then we don't know what's going to happen, and that's why it's typically cheaper. We have the PID. It's a 9-digit number where you can go on the new registry homes from the BC Housing. Again, we're going to put that below, and where you can find a lot of information about a home that is under construction or a new home. So then what that will give you who is the builder, what kind of insurance they have, and also some additional information which will be useful for your warranty.
Awesome. Like I mentioned, we're going to just quickly bring up LEED as well. So in case you don't know, these are environmentally friendly homes, and they come into different levels depending on how energy efficient they are and how much they respect the environment, essentially. So just something to keep in mind if you're deciding to build new. I know it's really important to a lot of you to be taking care of the environment around us, because there are so many different things going on a regular basis. So it's exciting to see.
Build green homes or buy green homes. LEED is a great certification, as well as Build Green Canada, and so look out for those certifications when you're buying or building a new home. And on that note,
that's all we have. That's all she wrote, guys. Thanks so much for watching.
Thank you for joining us on this episode. Feel free to let us know if you have any questions. bchousing.org will be your best bet. We're going to link all the information down there.
Right. Was anything in this video a surprise to you? Let us know. And we'd also love to hear if you've built your own home. Please share with us any tips and tricks that you discovered along the way. I'm sure that any of our viewers and all of our viewers would love to learn more. So
thanks for joining us, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.